The tide was high the night Leah stood at the edge of the worn dock, holding a flickering lantern in trembling hands. The wind smelled of salt and sorrow, and the sea echoed back a silence she'd grown familiar with over the years. Since her father's boat vanished during that storm 3 winters ago, she'd come to this place every evening, whispering prayers into the ocean wind. Not for answers, but for peace, or perhaps for the strength to let go. But tonight was different. She heard the creak of old wood behind her. An old man, cloaked in a heavy shawl, approached and stood quietly at her side. He didn't speak, only stared out toward the horizon where sky kissed sea. "You waiting for someone to return too?" she asked, voice barely rising above the waves. The man turned to her with eyes that gleamed like moonlight through rain. "I wait not for return, but for recognition," he said. "Sometimes the lost have already found what we cannot see." His words struck a chord deep in her chest. She turned to look at him again, but he had already begun to walk down the dock, barefoot despite the splinters. At the edge he knelt, placed his hands in the water, and prayed softly. That night she dreamt of her father, not as the man pulled under by wind and waves, but as a boy sailing a paper boat through puddles in a spring storm, smiling up at the sky. She woke with tears in her eyes and lightness in her chest, like the grief had shifted slightly, like something had been touched. The days that followed were quieter, not because the sorrow left her, but because the weight of it didn't crush her so completely anymore. She returned to the dock less often, and instead sat by the hilltop church in town, lighting candles for others. An act her father had once taught her meant more than words. One rainy evening, she saw him again, the old man. This time, inside the church, he sat alone near the altar, hands folded, whispering names she could not hear. When he opened his eyes and saw her, he smiled. "You still carry the lantern?" he asked. She nodded, "though the flame doesn't flicker as wildly now." "That's because it no longer burns only for the lost," he said, "but for the living who remain." Her fingers tightened around the wooden bench. "Do you think he knows I still love him?" The man's face softened. "He knows. Love once offered is never truly lost, only changed." A silence fell between them. She reached into her bag, pulled out the lantern, and placed it before the altar. The flame glowed warmer than ever before. As she walked home through the rain, a child passed by, crying, soaked and alone. Without thinking, Leah removed her coat and wrapped it around him. "Thank you," the boy whispered. Leah bent down. "Do you need help finding home?" He nodded. And so they walked, lantern in hand, lighting the path not only back to the boy's house, but slowly, step by step, back to hers.